What's up guys? Today I'm going to show you how to completely disassemble a Nock2It release. I'm pulling out all the screws, laying out all the components, and then I'm going to clean it, oil it, and put it all back together. Then I'm going to show you how I go about setting mine up. Now when you're doing this, you got to be really careful that you don't lose any springs, because if you lose those, you might need to buy a new release. But if you just take your time and go slow and follow along with me, you're going to be completely fine. Alright, the materials that you need to do this are in the description below, and if you're ready, let's get started. First thing I recommend doing is putting a towel down, so when you open up the housing and you have all the components and the springs and the screws uninstalled, they're not going to roll around your surface, and that's going to minimize the chances of anything getting lost. Next, I'm going to make sure that the release is uncocked. You want this jaw open. That's because when you push this down, there's going to be a spring that compresses, and you don't want that compressed when you start taking things apart. Alright. First thing you got to do is take out these two screws. Right here. I have a 1/16 Allen wrench. Next, along the seam, right here, you're going to start prying that open. That's going to expose a spring right around here. And as you pry it open, you want to get your Allen key inserted into the center of that spring. So when you pull this thing apart, the spring's just going to fall onto this Allen key, and you're not going to lose it. Alright, you can use any kind of pry tool. I'm able to use my fingers. Feel free to use a razor blade or a screwdriver. Alright. As you can see, there's a spring right there. Right there. See a little circle? That's your spring. So you're going to keep prying this open. Alright, slowly, and you want to get your Allen key in there, just keep wedging it in there. Don't rush this part. Okay. So I'm going to keep prying it open. I'm going to get my spring. Sorry, get my Allen key into that spring. Alright. Just right in there. And as you can see, the spring is on my Allen key right now. So look, when I open it, the spring ends up on the Allen key here. Alright, put that off to the side. Just get everything organized when you're taking this thing apart. This trigger just came off. The pin for the trigger may stay on this part of the housing, or in this case it stayed on the other half of the housing. Just take that pin right out. The orientation doesn't matter of that pin when you reinstall it. Alright, now because we pressed the trigger and this thing was uncocked here, this spring isn't compressed and it's just loose and it's not going to go anywhere. So you can easily take this out now. Okay? Again, just keep everything organized. Alright. You can take out this pin for the cocking lever. Boom. as well as the cocking lever. Okay, now we're going to take this pin out for the locking lever, locking jaw. Put that over here next to its spring, and take out the locking jaw. Okay, you're left with one more spring and one more screw inside this housing, and this is the compression screw. This screw determines how hard you need to press the trigger when you're firing the release. And it's right here. Alright, I'm just going to go ahead and take out this screw first before we take out the spring. Alright, and that's just a 3/32. Easy stuff, guys, just go slow. And now this spring should just pop out. I'm gonna push it, and boom, it comes out. Put that right next to its set screw, right here. Now, I've already cleaned this thing recently, but I'll just go over it right now. Okay, I'm just taking a Q-tip, putting some isopropyl alcohol in it. And now I'm just going to get into the seams of everything. Start cleaning it out. I'm getting all these holes. All right. Get all that grime out. I don't know if you can see that. All right. Take another one, another Q-tip, get some ISO on it. And you're gonna do the other side. Easy stuff. Okay. Take another one. ISO. Same thing. I'm just gonna do this to all my components. Just get any kind of dirt, grime or dust off of these things. Feel free to use gloves. Your hand's gonna dry out pretty quickly if you're working with ISO on your bare hands. Clean out the springs. You don't need to go crazy, but you already have this opening, so just do what you can. A little too much ISO, that's fine. ISO should dry quickly. Inside this thumb barrel gets really dirty, so make sure you get that a good clean. Okay. pull. Just get the pins. All right. Now I'm happy with that. Take your time, do as much as you need to. I'm gonna take some compressed air and blow all this ISO off, make sure it's dry. But when you're doing this, don't spray it over your components because they're just gonna go everywhere. Be smart, all right? This is gonna help work out even more dust and grime that might be like in these creases here. All right, yeah, you want to make sure that everything is dry now. Okay? And that's it. It should be really clean. Now let's put this thing back together. First thing I'm going to do is put the compression spring into the housing. All right, the set screw that belongs to the compression spring, that's gonna go in last. Okay. The first thing I'm gonna put in is gonna be the trigger. All right. Take the pin, it doesn't matter the orientation of it, just put the spring in. Oh, sorry, put the pin in right there. Okay. And now, it's just like a puzzle piece. You're just gonna put the hole for the trigger over top of the spring and just insert it just like that. Make sure it sits flush. You wanna make sure everything's gonna sit flush on here, guys. I'll show you what I mean. So I want this face of the trigger right here to be flush against the housing. Right here to here you want flush. No gaps. Okay? Self-explanatory. Next I'm gonna do the cocking lever, which is this guy right here. Take the pin, put the pin right there. And just like that. Okay, now I'm gonna take the spring for the cocking lever and I'm gonna put it right in there. But to do this, you might not have room because you don't want to have to like squeeze this spring in there. That's how you lose it. So basically what you want to do is pull the trigger, basically get it out of the way. Now see how much room I have for the spring? Right now this lever's in the way, the trigger's in the way of this lever, it can't move. So I'm just gonna press the trigger, rotate the cocking lever, and now that's gonna give me some space to put the spring in. Easy. Now you can basically, you can cock the release at this point. I don't recommend doing this, but I just want to show you guys. Again, just be careful because you have this spring here and it's exposed. But see how that's cocked? And then you press it. And that's how this is how this release works, minus the locking jaw right here. Okay, boom. But I don't recommend doing that because again, this is exposed. Now you can kind of get a feel about how this release works. Okay, so you have this compression spring here. That's an adjustment that you have. So the tighter this spring is right here, the harder it is for you to rotate this trigger and for it to release this cocking lever. See? So that's gonna decide how hard it is to push this trigger this way. Okay? Now the travel screw, that's gonna show you, that's gonna give you the adjustment for how much it needs to move. The trigger needs to rotate before it releases here on this cocking lever. All right, so those two adjustments is what they give you, and that's for your preferences on how to shoot this, or how hot you want to shoot this release. This compression spring here, and this travel screw. Okay. Now let's put in the locking lever. All right, just add the pin. Okay. And now the jaw's in place. Now again, I don't have room to put this spring back in, so I'm gonna cock it again and see how that gives me room now for the spring. Now there's room for the spring right here. Okay, I'm just gonna show you guys that again. So right now, I'm not gonna like just shove this spring in there, because that's how you lose it. So I'm gonna cock this, and that's gonna open up room right here for the spring. See how there's room now here. Okay, so now there's a hole right here. Get that in focus for you guys. Okay. This hole right here, that's where the spring goes. It's gonna be halfway behind this housing and halfway exposed. So I'm just gonna get it into that hole. Oh. Get it into that hole and push it down. And just be careful here, guys. It's easier than it looks, but that's definitely a spot where you need to be careful. Okay, so now that it's fully taken apart and put back together, I'm gonna oil everything. I'm gonna oil it anywhere I see metal moving against metal. So that would be the pins. You don't need to go crazy, just a drop at a time. It's honestly probably too much. All right. And that oil should work itself all throughout the release with some compressed air. But you want to make sure that it's like, you oil it anywhere that metal's moving against metal. So like right here would be good. Right here would be good. Right here, where it rotates on the pins. And when you take some air duster or compressed air, you're gonna work it all throughout the housing, so it should be good. Cool. Okay. Now we're gonna put the other half of the housing back on. And put the two screws back in. Okay, now you want to put that last set screw in on the tension, on the compression spring. All right, and that's too much. What I want to do with this when I put the compression screw back in, here, I'll just take it out and show you. All right, when I'm reinstalling this compression screw here, I want to make sure that the top face of this screw is flush with this part of the housing. As you can see right now, it's kind of hard to see. It's not flush right there. See how I'm hitting it here? Okay, that's better. Alright, see how this face of the screw is way above this face of the housing? So I just want to screw this in until it's flush, until this top face of the screw is flush with here. And that's just going to be my reference point for my adjustments. Alright, so now that's pretty flush. Now, you can either go clockwise or counterclockwise from here. Clockwise will make it colder, and counterclockwise will make the release hotter. When it's hotter, that means less force needs to be put onto the trigger here to make it go off. So I got to my reference point with the top face here being flush with here. Now I'm going to go either counterclockwise or clockwise. From there, I'm going to go clockwise. All right, I'm going to go clockwise a quarter turn there. Okay, now I'm going to cock the release and fire it a couple times. Now I'm going to adjust the travel. You want to adjust the travel anytime you adjust this compression screw, because after the compression screw adjustment, it could be the travel could be too hot, and as you pull back this release, the release could just fire, and that would be bad. So you're gonna cock the release. I'm gonna set the travel by using a 5/64 key, putting it into the travel screw and rotating the key until it goes off. After it goes off, you're gonna point the Allen key towards 12 o'clock. And I like going one whole rotation counterclockwise from there to adjust the travel. All right, so there's 12, there's 9, 6, 3, and back to 12. That's one full rotation there. And that's where I like my release. That might be too hot actually. I'm gonna go a half turn clockwise from the position I am right now on the compression screw. No, half. Be there. I'm gonna cock the release again. Rotate this till it goes. Rotate the travel screw until it goes. All right, and then from there, one full rotation counterclockwise. Boom. You know, I'm gonna go another half turn clockwise on the compression screw, make it a little bit colder. Boom. Cock the release and adjust the travel again. Rotate it till it goes off. Okay. Put the Allen key at 12 o'clock. Got one full rotation back to 12 o'clock. Again, that's to make sure that the travel's not too hot, so when you pull back, it doesn't just go off. And that's it. This thing feels really good. Feels clicky, feels snappy, feels really smooth to pull the trigger. You don't feel anything grinding or rubbing against each other. And just make sure that someone checks this release out. A professional checks this out and make sure that you did this correctly, and that you're not missing anything or it's not too hot. we're not going to be responsible for if you didn't put this together right and you happen to have a misfire. So just be safe and do your due diligence to make sure that this is set up correctly and it's not going to misfire or anything like that. All right, guys. So I really hope you learned something. I'm really happy that this release feels brand new again, and this is ready for another like 2,000 more fires. You probably want to maintain this thing after you shoot it for a couple months, or if you drop it in the mud or drop it in a lake. That's in my case. Alright guys, well, I hope you learned something, and thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.